Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope that you are all well. I am recording this podcast at 5:30 in the morning. I was going to record it when I got up. I've got a full day planned of being organised because tomorrow I'm going away to Morocco. I'm going on this retreat. So me and 17 women that I've never met before are going to spend 5 nights in Morocco at this beautiful retreat, which I'm really looking forward to. However, my heart is racing right now and I can't go back to sleep. So I thought I might as well record the podcast because my Uncle Tommy, who is very kindly taking me to the airport tomorrow at 5:30, has just rung me and said, right, I'm ready, I'm outside, come out when you're ready. I was like, what? So I've just jumped out of bed, absolutely panicked, looking through my flight details, thinking that I've got the wrong day. I've not, but this is a lesson for me because I haven't packed a single fucking thing. So it's a really good job that I have got the dates mixed up. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. So that will be nice. I'm also absolutely loving autumn. Loving it. I feel like it's such a good one this year. It's been mostly dry as well where I am, so it's all very orange, very crunchy. Yesterday, I literally crossed over the main road to go and walk in some crunchy leaves, and I am just here for it. So I've had a really nice time in September and October. I've been to a Halloween party. I've carved a pumpkin. I even filmed it for my very first vlog on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribing, you can come and find me over there as Empower State. I would be very grateful if you would come and subscribe to my channel so I can be a YouTuber and live out the rest of my life sipping champagne on a yacht. So thank you so much to the 148, I think it is, of you who've already subscribed. So this week I want to talk to you about something that I have incorporated into my life over probably the last year or so, I would say, and something that I never thought I would ever find myself doing again after leaving education, and that is studying. Now, I am no academic, guys, far from it. I managed to get through my whole school career and all the way through my university degree without a single ounce of study. But now it's something that I do regularly by choice. So I want to talk to you about how that is going to help you with your mindset and with your manifestations and with life in general. So I was speaking to a lad I know recently, John, and I had recommended a book to him that I thought he would enjoy because he does a lot of like self-development stuff. And he told me that when he reads a book that it just doesn't go in, like he forgets it, which I can 100% relate to. So he was going to listen to the audio version of it and he was then going to listen to it on repeat like 3 times while he was sleeping to allow it to sink in, which I love because that is an amazing way to absorb information. I never go to sleep without listening to some kind of subliminal track or a sleep hypnosis. So I like the idea of listening to a book too. I haven't done that before. But this conversation got me thinking about how so many of us buy self-development books or material, we listen to things, we watch self-development stuff on YouTube or podcasts or even the contents of a course or a membership like mine, but we don't get the full benefit out of them because we're only taking it in at a surface level. It's not actually going any deeper. So this is especially relevant when we're talking about deeper concepts like the concepts that I share on this podcast, like law of assumption and things to do with the quantum field, for example, because a lot of it really goes against what has been drilled into most of us for our entire lives. So when someone discovers this sort of stuff for the first time, let's say that you can use your imagination to create your whole reality, that will come up against the barrier of your lifelong belief systems. So if you've been taught that everything must be hard, that it's a struggle, that whatever you experience is just the luck of the draw. It's the hand that you've been dealt, that you're a victim of your circumstances rather than the creator of them, which is what most people are raised to believe. Then when you pick up a book on the law of assumption, your mind is going to reject that idea. It's not going to get through your bullshit filter between your conscious and your subconscious mind. So you might consciously understand it and think, yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea. But your subconscious mind is like, no, that's incorrect because our belief system says this. So even though you've accessed that material, you're not really going to take anything from it. And then you're going to be looking for the next thing. And this is where the power of studying comes in. So unlike when you were at school, that doesn't mean that you have to sit there memorising the contents of material. That does absolutely fuck all. For all of you who are teachers out there, you'll know this because there'll be a child in your class, I can guarantee it, who gets 10 out of 10 every week on the spelling test because they've memorised it, because they've taken the list home and memorised it. But then when they do a piece of writing, they continue spelling those same words incorrectly because it's not sunk in below the surface. It's a memory test. It's just shallow learning. And that's what's happening to you when you buy a new self-development book or a course, or you watch a YouTube video, or you listen to a podcast once, you read it, you listen to it, and maybe even, if you're like me, in the past, you might have prided yourself on how many self-development books you've read, oh, look at all these self-development books I read. I have definitely done that, but ask yourself, what is it that you've actually taken from it? How did it change your life? Because within the pages of every single book, within the content of a membership, within the content of a course, within a YouTube video, within a podcast episode, that is full of information that has been poured in by the creator of it. And in some cases, especially in books, the life's work and the life's research is in less than 400 pages, and you can buy it for 15 quid. And it's literally got the power to change your whole fucking life if you use it. But what most of us do is just keep buying the next course, we keep buying the next book, we keep watching the next YouTube video, we keep listening to the next podcast, and we just keep ploughing through all of this self-development content. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I love that we're all immersing ourselves in this sort of stuff. But if you're looking to really, really learn, that's not going to do it. It's not enough. Yeah, there'll be a little bit that you remember. There might be something in there that you use, but unless you study it, it will not go in deeper than the surface. So I love a self-development book. Literally, I am a whore for self-development books. I've got a shelf full and they're all amazing. And there's lots of them that offer different things, but there's also a lot that offer exactly the same things. They're the same content, just in different words. If you apply what you learn in it, they are absolutely transformational. But if you don't actually apply it because it's not gone deeper, there's absolutely no fucking point in reading 25 self-development books in a year. Other than if you're looking to develop a habit of reading, or again to immerse yourself in that positivity. But really, what most of us are doing it for is so that we can be smug, let's be honest. So you'll just be reading that same information worded slightly differently. So here is what I suggest that you do instead. This is what is going to change your life. Pick one book, pick one course, pick one membership. I'd recommend mine, obviously, but it doesn't matter which one. Choose something. It works best with books though, this. Choose something and study the same content over and over and over. And I know that sounds like it's going to stunt your growth because you think, well, surely if I read more, I'm going to learn more. It's not. I have tried both ways. I've tried taking in all of the information from everybody, and I've also tried studying one thing from one person, and it is the latter that has changed my life for the better in a much quicker time span. I have been studying manifestation of a fashion. When I say studying, I wasn't actively studying, but accessing content about manifestation since I was 17. It's the last 2 years that have been most transformational for me, definitely. And that's when I was studying the same content over and over and over again. So if you are familiar with Bob Proctor, which I'm sure you are because he was a really, really big speaker in the manifestation world, what a guy he was. If you're not, get to know him. He's a great person to study, but he infamously studied the same book for his entire life, and he talked about that a lot in all of his own teachings. And that book was written by Napoleon Hill, and it's called Think and Grow Rich, which you've probably already got on your bookshelf if you've already got a collection of self-development books or books on manifestation, because it's an absolute classic. That doesn't mean that he never read anything else. Of course he did. Like, you do need to read other things because you're trying to expand your skill set, and there'll be different authors that write about slightly different topics. But what he didn't do was just read the same content by different authors. He would study this one book. And funnily enough, you know that my dad is the person who got me into manifestation. And he has a self-development book which he won't let me borrow. Like, he will not let it out of the house because he has read that on repeat, not quite as like the same level of commitment as Bob Proctor, but over the years he's read that over and over and over again. His brother bought him years ago, and he won't part with this book. It's all raggy now, so he actually bought me my own copy a few years ago, and that also happens to be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and he didn't know at the time that Bob Proctor also studied that one. But lots of people do this. Tony Robbins, who's another big speaker, he talks about how he studies his own personal Bibles. He's not talking about the Bible. He's talking about a small number of books that he returns to over and over and over. Jack Canfield, who's another one of my favourite authors, he also studies Napoleon Hill's work. Wayne Dyer studied the Tao Te Ching, which is like, I think it's like a Buddhist book, that one. Oprah Winfrey, she talks about how she's studied a book called The Course in Miracles, which is another very well-known book. And obviously people who are religious study their own sacred texts like the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu text that Jay Shetty refers to a lot in his podcast. So people who are gaining some kind of wisdom or the building the faith in something are accessing the same thing over and over again. Study is powerful, and it is a really amazing thing to do for yourself. And the beautiful thing about it is each time that you go back and you read that same book or that you watch that same video or you listen to that same podcast episode or you study the contents of that same course, you get something new from it, because each time you get through it, your consciousness is expanding because of it. So it's like a never-ending loop. You read the book, your consciousness expands, you go back and read it again, and because it's expanded, you're able to get something new from it. Your awareness is greater. Your understanding is deeper and deeper and deeper. So I love to read books, but there is one book that I am continuously reading, and I know that I will be reading this book until the day I die. And it's actually not one that I recommend to people, because I know that if they pick it up, they're very likely to put it back down again because it's intense. It's actually a big book which contains all 14 books of Neville Goddard. And do you know how long I had it before I actually realised the power that was in the pages of it? 4 years. I had it for 4 years on my bookshelf. The first time I picked it up, it was written in a really complex, old-fashioned style, old-fashioned language. There was a lot of stuff about God in it, and I'm not religious. There were extracts from the Bible, and I just picked it up and I thought, what a load of shit. That book has changed my fucking life. That is my Bible. It goes everywhere with me. It's got notes in it. It's got highlighter. It's got post-it notes. If there were a fire in my house in the middle of the night, I would be running down the stairs of my apartment, start bollock naked, with Gloria under one arm and that book under the other, because even though I'm not religious in the slightest, spiritual, yes, but not religious, that book is my Bible. And no matter how many times I read it, and I read the same smaller books within it over and over and over again, I read the same page, I read the same chapters, I always get something new from it because my consciousness is expanding. Have you ever rewatched one of your favourite childhood films and noticed all the little jokes that they put in it for like the adults that you didn't know that were there when you were a kid? Or you've noticed that actually the meaning behind it is much deeper than you ever got when you were a kid? That's because your awareness has expanded, and it's the same thing when you study something. So here is what I suggest that you do if you want to take this podcast episode and actually use it to improve your life instead of just listening to it and then waiting for next week's episode. Go and choose a book that is on your bookshelf, ideally one that you've picked up before. I'm talking about a self-development book here. Obviously, if you just like read for pleasure, like you read, what they're called, I can't remember the name of them, fiction books, read as many as you like of them, they're different. But go and find a non-fiction book, a self-development book that's a little bit more complex. It will work better if it's a bit more complex and it makes you think, or it's got too many pages, or the language is a little bit more difficult than you'd normally go for. Pick up that book, choose a chapter somewhere near the middle, so don't start at the beginning because you're going to get all the introduction bits. Choose a chapter that you're drawn to, somewhere in the middle. And then when you get to the end of that chapter, go back to the first couple of pages of that chapter and reread those couple of pages. Read them twice. And once you've read them twice, maybe read it aloud. That's what I like to do. Pick a section in those 2 pages, highlight it, make notes on the page. See if you can simplify it. Try and come up with an analogy of how that transfers into real life. How could you explain that? And when you think you've got it, go and teach that part to someone else as simply as you possibly can using that analogy. You know, I fucking love an analogy. And it's because if you can create an analogy for something, you've got it, you understand it, and you're able to pass it on in a way that is easy to digest for somebody else. So go and do that. Go and teach it to someone else, because there's science behind the fact that you can teach something, meaning that you have really accepted that information on a deeper level and that you really understand it. And most importantly, think about, okay, how am I going to apply what I've learned to my life? Because that section, even that page, change your fucking life if you apply it. And then repeat that with the same book, with the same, different sections of the same book over and over and over again. Obviously, you don't have to commit to reading that book for the rest of your life, but you'll find your book that you love. It might be Think and Grow Rich. It might be The Power of Awareness for Neville Goddard. It might be The Power of Now. There's loads of them that will be a great book for you to study for the rest of your life. You'll find that one and you'll know, because you'll feel like, oh my God, I've studied this and my life has fucking changed. I'm going to keep going back to this one. There are 2 ways that we rewire our subconscious minds, which is very, very important if we want to bring in anything new. What's stopping our manifestations coming in is our belief systems. So there's 2 ways to rewire those belief systems that are sitting in the subconscious mind. One of them is an emotional impact. That's where things like visualization comes into play. And the other one is repetition. Emotional impact, repetition. They're the 2 ways that you rewire. So the repetitive study of one piece of content will have far more impact than accessing 100 pieces of content. Study is a practice that people who are successful in life, whatever that might look like for them, they've all got it in common. They all study something. So try it yourself and see what happens. And again, you can do this with more than just books. You don't have to just do it with books. You can do it with podcast episodes. You can do it with audio books. You can do it with scientific studies of things that support whatever it is that you're wanting to learn. You can do it with YouTube videos, with TED Talks, with modules of work, anything. The point is the repetition. About maybe 8 years ago, I would say, when I would be driving to work each day, when I just became a teacher, I would listen to a playlist on Spotify, and it's still there, but it's totally different now. So otherwise I would share it with you. But it was a law of attraction playlist. I don't teach law of attraction anymore, but at the time, that's what I listened to. A law of attraction playlist, and it was made up of motivational speeches with a bit of music in the background, like uplifting music. And there were about 5 tracks of different people speaking about law of attraction and about basically how we're the creator of our reality, but in different ways. And I would loop those tracks every day for an hour. I would drive half an hour there and half an hour home, and they are the only things I would ever listen to. I never had my music on. I would listen to those 5 tracks, and I would repeat it, and then I would start to think about what they meant for me and how they applied in my life, like analogies of how I'd experienced that and how I could implement them going forward. And I honestly believe that those tracks that I listened to every single day, and it was probably for a year or 2, is what led me later on to teaching manifestation, because they rewired my mind completely to look at things through a positive lens, and they changed everything for me just from those 5 simple tracks. So some books that you might like to try this with, if you've not already got one in mind, is the one that I will be reading for the rest of my life, along with his other teachings, The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. When you pick it up, you're very likely to put it straight back down, because it looks a bit religious, and if you're not into that, then, that might put you off. It's not religious, I'll tell you that, even though it says God all the time. It's not religious. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. That's one that I recommend to people. That's a great book. You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is my OG main man. I love Dr. Joe. But any of the books from Dr. Joe Dispenza are really good. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's a book I'm recommending because I've also tried to read that one twice and I've never read it yet because I've picked it up and thought this is too complicated, and I've put it back down. So I know that one would also work, and that's another classic. It doesn't really matter which one you're studying if it's manifestation that you're learning about, but it's definitely easier with a slightly more difficult text, because the act of having to actually think about what the sentences mean as you read it and conceptualize it is going to help you with that study, because maybe it's written in complex or old-fashioned language. It's going to slow you down, and that's what you want to happen in this case. So that is what I've got for you today. Incorporate the power of study into your life. It will change it, I promise you. I hope that you have an incredible week. Thank you so much for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to leave me an Apple review. Come and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, come and join me in the membership. I have made it super easy to join now via a very snazzy new website link in my Instagram bio. There are 37 lessons over 4 modules that take you through the process of the law of assumption that I use, all with embodiment tasks to go with them so that you can put what you learn to work in every single lesson. We have monthly masterclasses, we have live Q&As, all sorts of stuff. So come and join us. It's £88 a month. You can join or cancel at any time, and I will see you in there soon. I'll see you when I get back from Morocco. See you later.